look, I think we all understand that out the West Coast, there is a left-leaning bias.
The left coast?
Absolutely.
So I get that, and I think actually that's for another show we can have is why that is the case. I mean, it's to the point where if you lean right just a little bit, you're outcast. I mean, there are a lot
You're
of people,
chastised.
there are a lot of Hollywood actors and actresses that are afraid to speak out because if they do and they have some tendencies to the right, they don't get work. And what ends up happening is too, if you debate somebody of color, they'll say, "Well, at the end of the day, you haven't lived in my shoes."
Right.
Well, and by the way, how racist is that to tell me that I don't
Exactly.
have some certain kind of understanding because of the color of my skin? Let's talk about that.
Listen,
Like, how racist is it for somebody to tell somebody you couldn't possibly comprehend what I'm talking about right now because of the color of your
They
skin?
literally teach that minorities in America cannot be racist. It's impossible.
Do you know what kind of response it would elicit if I went to somebody and said, no, because of the color of your skin, because you're Asian or black, you can't possibly understand what it... How about if I flipped it around and told them, maybe because you're an African American in our country, you're too emotional and sensitive about this topic, so you can't see clearly and objectively about what's going on because you're clinging to the victimhood sentiment that's been set forth by the liberal media.
That's just your white privilege talking.
how about the story I sent you guys that there's a Baltimore professor who said white people should deposit their unearned wealth in black accounts.
Unearned
And
wealth.
that's allowed in our country.
Yeah. What does he classify as unearned wealth? Whatever he wants?
I stopped reading it because I became dumber.
And this is a professor, right?
That's
Yes.
my
In
This is somebody
Baltimore.
who's molding young minds.
Exactly.
that Facebook said it's letting software almost entirely drive what happens or appears in its trending feature, and it's scaling back the human intervention that led to allegations of political bias earlier this year. They said it's eliminating the descriptions that have typically accompanied the topics and headlines that appear in the trending feature, which is distinct from the Facebook news feed. And so they admitted that they actually had people physically finding these stories that were trending, and most people, when they looked at it, I forgot who exposed them on this. There was a site or a blog that exposed Facebook pretty much saying, what you're doing, they're all left stories.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, you could tell that. Holy smokes. I know I could.
You could.
So what you're saying is like Facebook was the CNN of social media.
I mean,
The MSNBC of social media.
How concerning is it that basically people are trying to force feed information to manipulate? This is nothing more than manipulation by the media, whether it's social media or news outlets or whatever it is. And again, you can say, well, there's Fox News for the... That's one outlet.
Fox News and
couple-
Breitbart. That's about it.
Yeah, a couple. When you're talking about ABC, NBC,
CNN.
Disney, the Disney family of networks, ESPN. Look at all of the leftist liberal stuff that's on ESPN these days.
All the newspapers.
The news outlets are supposed to be there to report objectively and let the people make up their own mind. If you control the news networks, people are not able to make up their own mind. You're manipulating the outcomes of our country.